close with one more kind of story. And if there's any teachers in the house, they'll probably kind of appreciate this because I know they get a slap with their education, and I don't know how friendly Mr. Rauner's been to any of that. He claims he is, but we haven't seen any stories or likes of it yet. But Mr. Rauner visited a fourth grade class over in St. Anne, Illinois. And while he was in that class, they were working on a word, and the word was tragedy. So the students had to come up with something that fit a tragedy. So Mr. Rauner looked around for volunteers. The little boy in the back raised his hand. He said, "I got one." He said, "One of my friends, Johnny, he was out at his farm, and he was on his tractor, and he was riding around on it, and the tractor flipped over, broke his neck. That is a tragedy." Mr. Rauner looked at him and said, "No, son, that is what we would call an accident." So he asked again, anybody else in this room got a description of a tragedy? The little girl in the back raised her hand. She said there was a school bus that was going down the road. It had 40 students in it. It drove off a cliff. All the students on that bus were tragically killed. That is a tragedy. Mr. Rauner looked at her and he said, "It's a pretty good definition, but unfortunately that is something that we would call a great loss." So with that, we had all these little fourth graders stumped in the room, and they kept looking around. Finally, a little boy in the back raised his hand. He said, "I think I have something." He said, "I think that Mr. Rauner was flying in a state jet, and it got hit by a missile, blown to smithereens, killed the pilot and all the other passengers in it, and Governor Rauner was killed as well. That would be a tragedy." Governor Rauner said, "That is exactly right. That is exactly right. Do you know why it would be a tragedy?" He said, "Yes, sir, I do, because it certainly wouldn't have been an accident, and it definitely is not going to be a great loss." Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Before we introduce some of our elected officials that have come to talk to us today, I'd like to just touch briefly on what Southland Friends of Labor is all about. We support our elected officials that support us. We also, our mainstay is to get rank and file members involved in government. We'll show them, we'll help them, we'll support them. So any of the labor leaders that are here, if you got somebody who want to get on a local board, we got a couple here today. Bill Haynes, Oak Forest, Brandon Watson, School Board, Bloom Township 206, Adam Woodruff, KP Valley Park District. Got our support, and we support the politicians who support us in labor. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Lori Summers. Lori?
Good morning, and I will only take a couple seconds. I have the privilege of announcing for Southland Friends of Labor our elected officials. And the first person that I would like to bring up here is Congresswoman Robin Kelly, 2nd Congressional District.
I'm not used to going before the speaker, so I thought he was going to be called first. But good morning, everyone. It's an absolute honor to be here. I'm glad I could be home to attend today. As I enter my second Congress, some things have changed for me. I now sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I'm still on Oversight and Government Reform Committee, but now the ranking member on IT and cybersecurity. One reason I wanted to stay on Oversight and Government Reform is because my mother retired from the post office, and my brother works for the post office now, and I need to look out for my postal family so their working time doesn't move from 6 days to 5 days. So I'm there definitely fighting with them. I always tell them when I'm in committee and we're talking about it, I text my brother and say, we're talking about you. He just said, I better have a job when you're done. So they don't have to lobby me, my family's on me. But as a member of Foreign Affairs Committee on Terrorism, Nonproliferation, and Trade, I intend to lift up the issue of trade on Congress, particularly in the Midwest. International trade is essential to success in our global economy and will create new customers for Illinois businesses. The great work of the Economic Alliance of Kankakee County is one great example of the numerous opportunities for international trade. But I also believe that trade policies must be fair, and it must be in the best interest of our American workers. Just as essential to our national economy is a strong transportation infrastructure. That's one of the main reasons why we'll continue to fight zealously for the South Suburban Airport and the Ileana Expressway. I heard that. Some of you may have heard the FAA this month release its final airspace study for the third airport, and it concludes that there is sufficient airspace for the new airport. Just as important, the FAA also found that the South Suburban Airport would have minimal impact on the current operations of O'Hare, Midway, Kankakee, and other Chicago area airports. As proposed, the new airport would have its own air traffic control tower and become part of the Metro Chicago airspace. The study took about a year to complete, but it was expected to take much longer, up to 2 years, but pressure helps. Last spring, I hosted a meeting in DC with state legislators, and some are here, like Legislator Al Riley, and U.S. Transportation Secretary Anthony Fox. The group represented leaders from Chicago, the South Suburbs, Will County, and Kankakee County. It was unprecedented, the show of support in support of the airport. We were unified, which was very, very important. And we all asked the FAA to expedite the airspace study, which it did, I'm happy to report. With the airspace study complete, now about 90% of the airport planning process has been approved by IDOT and the FAA. The final chapter of the report, which is being prepared now, will include the updated environmental impact statement and the airport layout master plan. That work could take a year or two to complete, depending on the sense of urgency by the state planners at IDOT. Let me repeat that. Depending on the sense of urgency by the state planners at IDOT who are drafting the report. On another front, the state has now purchased probably 80% of the land necessary for building the inaugural airport. We have also continued to work together, and my mayors, Democrat and Republican, and the state reps and state senators, we all sent a letter to Governor Rauner pushing him about the importance of the airport and the Ileana. And one thing good so far, Governor Rauner's proposed state 2016 budget does not cut any previously approved funding for airport land acquisition. That means the state has already approved all the money it will need to complete the airport land purchase. And in the past couple of months, I've talked to the governor a couple of times about the need for the airport and the benefits it would bring to the state. However, he still needs to be convinced that this is a worthy investment for Illinois. So we need all of you helping us, helping our state officials to keep him convinced that this is a very important project for our area. In Congress, on the transportation front, infrastructure bill, Democrats and Republicans, believe it or not, are working together to see how we can afford to pay for the infrastructure transportation bill. And that is the stumbling block, making sure all the projects are paid for. And something that they're discussing, of course, is one way to pay for it is increasing the gas tax. But you know, that's hard for people to vote on that, and with the summer coming and the fear that gas prices are going to raise. But that issue is not dead, and we're working hard on that. The other thing I want to ensure that our local manufacturers reap the full benefits of these and other construction projects. That's why I recently co-sponsored the Invest in American Job Act. This legislation will require runways, highways, bridges, passenger rail systems, public transit, and water infrastructure projects to use American-made steel, iron, and other manufactured goods, many of which are here in the 2nd Congressional District. And I also want to ensure that high-skilled jobs we bring pay better wages. I truly believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. That's why I'm fighting in Congress to ensure that we not only have a higher minimum wage, but that women are earning a comparable salary to what men are making. In closing, I hope you all know and I prove myself to be a friend of labor. We need your skills, your talents, your know-how, and your commitment to building things in America for Americans. As your representative in Washington, I want you to know that I get it. And also, I hope that you listen to what Steve Magruder had to say. He wasn't as fiery as I've seen him in other times where I was scared to touch him after I thought I would burn up. But what he's saying is really important, that you guys have got to be involved and you have got to vote. You cannot stay home. We are 30 members down on the Democratic side in Congress. And even if we take back the presidency, we don't know if we will be able to take back 30 members to make a difference. So we need all of you guys to come out and vote, encourage your friends and family, get people registered. We need to invest in Illinois and to invest in Illinois workers for a stronger community, a stronger region, a stronger state, a stronger country, and a stronger future for all of us. And thank you for the opportunity to join you today. And I will take the opportunity to say, I know there's various announcements going on about what's going to happen in the future, and I might be making one myself. So thank you so much.